Fortunately, we can help students out with their sensory issues by making our studios more sensory friendly. So here's a quote from one person with sensory issues who is describing her experience with sensory overwhelm. She said, "It's like being inside a pinball machine." So many of you might experience something like that before. Like if, for example, you need to turn the music down so you can think. This happens to me a lot. But this is something on a much bigger level that many students with special needs experience daily, sometimes several times a day. So imagine how frustrating that would be if like every light is too much for you and every sound is coming at you. You can't tell the difference between them. So that could be the source of a lot of these behaviors that you see. So sensory processing is just what your brain does with the information it receives from your senses. So when people have issues with sensory modulation, that's when you get hypersensitive, which is like too much. The light is too much. Hyposensitive, not enough. So they'll want stimulation. Then maybe you might want to like play rough or run around a lot or spin, things like that. And then you can have issues with sensory discrimination. So like I said, you might hear all the sounds coming at you at once and not be able to tell what is what or focus on any one. That can be pretty distressing, as you can imagine. So as I just said, stimming is usually relief from overstimulation or extra input when understimulated. Students also can just do it because it feels good. And I think it's really important to let them. Those that can speak verbally have said it's really uncomfortable when people ask them to stop stimming, and it's not a behavior that we should be trying to stop. So let's talk about how to make our studios more sensory friendly. So considering visuals, think about the lighting in your room. Definitely try to avoid using overhead fluorescent lights. Get a few lamps instead and space them throughout the room. You can also get curtains if you don't have them already on any windows. Creating a dim environment is often a lot better for sensory overwhelm than a bright environment. And if you have to use those overhead fluorescent lights, you can get a cool light cover like this. Also consider what you're wearing. Try to avoid wearing clothes with busy patterns or unusual features. Try to avoid visual clutter. So it might require you to get a little creative, but try to put all of the books and objects in cabinets with a cover or in drawers instead of open bookshelves. You can even get like a curtain and cover your bookshelf if you don't want to buy new furniture. And then consider your decor. You might love all your art and trinkets, but some of it might have to go. Make sure that there's a lot of blank walls. And then think about sounds. So we're going to go through the senses. Try to eliminate any sounds that are coming from outside your room or inside your room, like electrical hums. Be aware you might have to use a soft speaking voice. I don't know if you could tell, but when that student in the video was yelling and like trying to take my hand off the piano, I still kept my tone like I'm talking to you now. This is kind of, it goes without saying for all educational contexts, but when students are yelling, you don't also want to yell. So you always kind of want to emulate how you want your student to be acting. And then headphones are a huge plus if you can get some in your studio. Parents will be super impressed that you have them. A lot of students actually bring their own headphones anyways. So I think there's a link for that in the handout. And use unscented everything. You might think that your lotion is subtle, but it's probably not for one of our students like this. So try not to use any scents. And then if you have a home studio, try not to cook anything delicious and aromatic right before your student's lesson. Those are some of the biggest sensory issues actually are smell and taste. And so sensory issues also spill over into safety. So students who are not getting enough input, for example, they might like have a hard time knowing where they are in space, and they might want to handle objects in a rough way. So make sure that any items that could tip over won't break, or that they're not like heavy and pointy. They won't hurt someone when they fall. Like those lamps I had in the previous slide, they're really cushy. They fall over and it's just fine. Be aware that you might have climbers. So some students who are highly movement seeking might like to climb. So make sure they're not left unsupervised to climb onto your bench and then onto your piano and then jump off of it. And then minimize the chance of bumping into sharp or hard surfaces. And then keep any delicate or valuable objects out of sight. I think of it as Murphy's Law of piano lessons. If something can break, then it will. So if it does break, it's probably your fault for not keeping it somewhere where it should have been out of sight. It's happened to me a million times. It's really frustrating, but now I learn.
was just going to interrupt quickly. Sorry, Selena. Beth says she's got rats and possums that scratch the roof all evening. Anyone got a solution? I'd be get rid of the rats, possums. Surely you can get. We've got like a Mr. Possum man over here who comes to people's houses and puts traps in their roof. Good question though. Quickly on headphones, Rosa John says, "Why headphones? Could you explain how this works?"
Yeah, the headphones are like noise canceling or a little bit noise canceling, so they can still hear, but it eliminates some of the extra sound.
Oh, okay. So they just put them on, turn on the noise canceling. Everything's just a bit more silent.
Are low tech. There's no like you don't turn anything on. It's kind of like hunting safety, kind of like it's commonly used in the community, like just to take out some of the sound.
Great.
Yeah. So this next thing is really easy for you to do and will go a super long way if you can have fidgets and sensory toys available for your students. So you can create kind of a sensory box, grab some items like this. I think we have some links for them in the handouts as well, but just anything that if you look up Stimmy toys or fidgets for autism, you'll find a bunch of kind of squiggly textured things that students can grab. So I like to have them, I give them to students when they come in or in transitioning between activities. Students can grab one off the piano and just like I have students that hold one in their hand while they're playing with the other hand. And that works out great for stimming. And then finally, let's have lots of movement opportunities. Two of my favorites are a TheraBand. You can find this on Amazon, and I like to wrap it around all four legs of the piano, and then students can stick their feet in there or just kind of wiggle the band and exercise. This is hands down the most popular item in my studio. Students run in, try to bounce on the ball as much as they can before I make them go to the piano. And then get creative with your instruction. I could do a whole nother webinar on movement activities, but if you can have your student move instead of sitting at the bench, please do that.